Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score studio. Welcome to the show. So, really quick, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on Phyrexian Flesh Gorger, why don't you check that one out? But not just yet. Do not leave just yet, even though that card's pretty fantastic. It's got a really cool new mechanic, and I'm not trying to convince you to leave. Do not leave, because you need to stay tuned to this episode first, where I talk about a commander that can do some incredibly gross things. I mean, you're gonna have to see it to believe it, and always remember that if I make any mistakes on this episode or any other episode, you need to blame Eddie in the comments below, or just blame Eddie right now for fun. Anyways, with all that said, let's jump into it. So our brand new commander is Mishra. One second, okay. We've gotten already, I believe, 2 other Mishras. I think there's like another one too, but yeah, we've got like a lot of Mishras now. We used to have like no kind of playable Mishras. I mean, okay, there's some janky decks you could build around the original Mishra, but now we actually have a lot of very playable Mishras, and this one, again, can do some incredibly gross things. Mishra, Tamer of Mak Fawa. And my apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Anyways, a 4/4 human artificer that costs 3 black and a red. It has permanent you control, have ward, sacrifice a permanent. Ouch. That's basically, yeah, hexproof essentially for all of your things, because sacrificing a permanent, that is a high cost. I mean, I guess I should say, okay, there are certain circumstances. I mean, maybe you're playing against an aristocrat-style strategy that really doesn't care about sacrificing certain things, or even actually wants to sacrifice certain things in some situations. Sure, then that's not as much of a detriment, obviously. But for the vast majority of decks out there that you're playing against, sacrificing a permanent when you have to target something is a massive deal. So it can be very tough to actually stop this commander. But on top of that, because I mean, that really doesn't do anything except it's just a giant deterrent, but yeah, on top of that, this commander has each artifact card in your graveyard has unearth 1 black red. And a really quick unearthing basically means that you return the card from your graveyard to the battlefield, it gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield, unearth only as a sorcery. Now, a few things here. I believe, and correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on this, this is the very first time we've ever seen Unearth apply to anything that is, well, not a creature, essentially. I believe we've only ever seen creatures being able to unearth, or, a commander specific. I believe Cedrus is the commander that can unearth, any creature, essentially. But yeah, this is the very first time that we can just apply this to something else. Artifacts. We can bring back artifacts from our graveyard right into play. Now, that is going to be temporary because, again, they're going to come into play. We get to utilize them. Again, they have haste. If it's an artifact creature, obviously we can swing with it right away. If it's an artifact that has an activated ability, we can use that right away. If it's got an ETB, we get that right away. But then we lose it at the end step. Again, it's going to exile. Even if it leaves the battlefield in a different way, again, if we sacrifice it or whatnot, it's going to exile anyways. Now, that being said, and what makes this commander very gross is that there's actually a way to get around that. And by doing that, you can get some massive value out of artifacts and also keep those artifacts around. I mean, you're already able to get some massive value out of artifacts. Again, if something has, a converted mana cost of 7+ or whatnot, you're going to be saving a ton of mana on that unearth. You just pay 3 mana. Also, there are some ways to make that cost even less. We'll talk about those here in a bit. But yeah, this commander, I think, has a lot of potential, and again, can do some incredibly gross things, especially in combination with one very specific card that is pretty much a given for this kind of a commander. This card is incredible with it. Definitely, in my opinion, the Golden Pig. I mean, I don't really like to assign Golden Pigs during spoiler season because, I mean, well, it's very early. I mean, this is the first time seeing the commander. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to argue against this card being the Golden Pig of a deck built around this commander. Now, that said, speaking of cards, if you are interested in this brand new exciting Mishra, well, make sure you check out my card list link in the description below, because, yeah, when new exciting commanders like this one are spoiled, sometimes cards that work really well with them tend to go up in price sooner rather than later. And now, with all that said, let's jump into those cards. And first up, I mean, the card that has got to be the golden pig of this deck with this commander is got to be Sundial of the Infinite. It's an artifact for 2 that has pay 1, tap, end the turn. Activate its ability only during your turn. And when you end the turn, basically you're exiling all spells and abilities on the stack. You discard down to max hand size, damage wears off, and this turn and until end of turn effects end. So this is a very sneaky way to essentially get around, again, the downside of unearthing. Again, unearthing is supposed to make it so that, okay, you can get this out pretty cheaply, but you are going to lose it. You get it back out from your graveyard, but it's going to go away no matter what you do, except with this. Because again, when that exile at the beginning of the next end step trigger goes on the stack, you're like, let's just pay 1 tap and the turn. Cool. The turn's over. That is just gone. The stack is cleared. And yeah, we just get to keep that artifact in play permanently then. And ironically, I mean, Sundial of the Infinite actually can basically unearth itself, right? Because you can just say, okay, if it's in my graveyard, yeah, I'll get it out. And then I'll pay 1 end the turn. Cool. I mean, you're going to do it right then, but, you know, when it actually goes on the stack, you know what I mean? But this is a card that, of course, works incredibly in this stack. Again, it gets around that massive downside of unearthing, and essentially, it's a way to kind of break things where you're like, all right, yeah, I just get to now get all my artifacts into play for incredibly cheaply, and they're going to be very, very, very difficult to deal with. Because even if they're dealt with, I can just unearth them again and still keep them around thanks to this incredible card. So, of course, when we are talking about a card that works so well in a deck like this, well, you're going to want to make sure you've got ways to actually get it. So, some cards that come to mind are cards like, Goblin Engineer or Entomb or Final Parting, which are incredible in this deck because, well, first up, they can help get Sundial of the Infinite, but also they can get other things that can help you out in different ways, and yeah, let's go through them really quick. Goblin Engineer. When it enters the battlefield, it may search life for an artifact card, put in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So basically, you have this 2-mana tutor that lets you go get whatever artifact you want. Again, if you already got Sundial of the Infinite in play, cool, you know that you can then unearth whatever that artifact is, get it right into play, and say, all right, let's just keep it around. Or again, if you need to do that with Sundial of the Infinite, you can to get yourself set up. Speaking of Sundial of the Infinite, yeah, it's got another part right here. Pay a red, tap, sacrifice an artifact, return target artifact card with converting mana cost 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's another way to actually just get something out of your graveyard into play. Again, a smaller artifact, which of course includes Sundial of the Infinite. So yeah, this can be a very helpful card in a lot of situations. In an even simpler way, yeah, a decently expensive card out there with Entomb. Please keep reprinting this wizard. It's a great card. Anyway, search life for a card, then put it in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Instant for just a single mana. Yeah, this is a great way to set yourself up for whatever artifact you want to unearth out of your graveyard. I mean, for a total of essentially, again, 4 mana, you're just like, all right, yeah, just go get an artifact essentially into play. I mean, graveyard first, then unearthing, but yeah, a massive, impactful effect. Or how about Final Parting, which can help you out in 2 ways. Essentially, search life for 2 cards, get one in your hand, the other in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So yeah, go get Sundial into your hand, go get another massive artifact that you want to essentially cheat out into play in your graveyard. It's a great way to set yourself up. And of course, there are a ton of fantastic tutors in these colors that can really help you out. I mean, even a simple Diabolic tutor, of course, can help you go get, especially Sundial of the Infinite. That's a great way to set yourself up and just say, yeah, we need to ensure that we are able to just get this thing set up and this engine going. Speaking of which, again, this commander does give artifacts, on Earth, and that includes artifact creatures. So yeah, Buried Alive, a great card in a lot of decks that care about graveyards. Search the library for the 3 creature cards, put them in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So go get 3 incredibly impactful artifact creatures. Again, ones that have the highest converted mana cost out there. Who cares? Because you can just cheat them into play again with this commander that allows you to just, get them out for basically 3 mana. And again, we'll talk about some ways to make that even less. And then again, with Sundial of the Infinite, keep them out there permanently. So obviously, looting effects like, Faithless Looting can really help you as well. Draw to the discard too, and you can flash it back so you can do it again. If you've got, again, one of those massive cards in your hand that you were never really, planning on actually casting, you just want to kind of unearth it out, this is a great way to say, all right, let's draw some cards, ditch those cards that, a high converted mana cost that we actually just want to get into our graveyard to unearth back out, and go get some more fuel for the fire with other things. So again, a combination of, looting effects as well as tutors, and, especially graveyard tutors, can be great for a deck built around this Mishra. Also great in a deck built around this new commander, let's talk about cards like Convergence of Dominion and Embalmer's Tools. Convergence of Dominion is a new card from Warhammer 40k, I believe. It says as long as you control your commander, activated abilities of cards in your graveyard cost 2 less to activate. And this effect can reduce the mana and that ability cost to, less than 1 mana. That's fine because, well, I mean, only we're getting half the value out of this to technically kind of again, because our commander is, again, has, Unearth, for your artifacts for 1 black, red. So this only reduces that 1, but still, that is, what, a third of the cost that is getting reduced? Now our artifacts only cost red-black, essentially, to just get out of our graveyard, and that can save you a ton of mana throughout the game. And, of course, allow you to, unearth more and more artifacts in a single turn, which is huge. On top of that, it also has pay 3, tap, mill 3 cards. So yeah, if you need to, mill yourself, and that's actually probably something I should have also brought up in that last, round of cards. But it's here now, so let's just talk about it. But yeah, again, on top of, looting, tutoring things in your graveyard, simply just milling yourself can be a great way to get more and more cards in your graveyard, and hopefully you hit some great artifacts that you want to, again, cheat out by unearthing them. And keep them around permanently with Sundial of the Infinite. Anyways, Embalmer's Tools, another card that is actually kind of a weird one, but actually can work in this deck. Activate abilities of creature cards in your graveyard cost 1 less to activate. And tap and untap zombie control, target player mills 1. Yeah, I mean, that might come into play if you've got any zombies with this, but still. The important part here is activate abilities of creature cards in your graveyard cost 1 less to activate. So basically, again, your artifact creatures in your graveyard, again, have that unearth cost for 1 less. Now just costing, black-red instead of, the 3 mana. So saving, again, a lot of mana throughout the game, allowing you to unearth even more. Moving on, another card that can really benefit from your unearthing is Imhotep the Stormlord, a 3/3 Necron from Warhammer 40k that says, whenever one or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, create 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. On top of that, at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2, gains medicine on turn. Yeah, that's nice, and I'm sure it's going to come in handy, but the important part is, again, that trigger. Because every single time we unearth an artifact, and we're going to be doing that a ton throughout the game, we are getting 2/2 creature tokens, and that can really add up a ton. So on top of getting all the value out of all those unearthed, artifacts, we are getting a massive army just thanks to this being in play. And of course, with this, we can also, unearth it out as well. And again, by keeping with Sundial of the Infinite, we can get a lot more value out of it. Speaking of value, yeah, Desecrated Tomb can help us out as well. In a somewhat similar way, whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. So again, as long as we have, artifact creatures that we are unearthing out, we are going to be getting a lot of value out of this throughout the game. Now, not as much value as Imhotep the Stormlord, but still a ton. And speaking of value, let's talk about some value we can get right away by unearthing artifacts like Spine of Ishsa, Mere Battlesphere, and Combustible Gearhulk. Spine of Ishsa has when it enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent whenever it's been engraved from the battlefield, return to its owner's hand. So this, again, is just a massive ETB. This just says, all right, hey, get me into your graveyard, and then unearth me out for just 3 mana, instead of my 7 mana cost. And now you can just, destroy whatever permanent you want for 3 mana. And again, if you've got your, again, Sundial of the Infinite play and you can keep this in play, then yeah, you can just keep getting this back by, when it hits your graveyard, go back to your hand. Maybe you can utilize it for more loot effects to get back into your graveyard. There's a lot of ways that you can utilize this. Or how about a very well-known ETB, in Commander with Mere Battlesphere. When it enters the battlefield, you get 4 1/1 colorless Mere artifact creature tokens. So yeah, you can really go wide with something like this very quickly. Again, for just 3 mana, you're getting 5 bodies. I mean, and basically, 8 power across 5 bodies, and, obviously this can pump as well and dish out damage. Yeah, there are some pretty disgusting things, again, you can do with that unearthing. And obviously, again, even if you aren't keeping this around Sundial of the Infinite, you can get that attack right away and get that attack trigger. So this can dish out a lot of pain. Speaking of pain, there's Combustible Gearhulk. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If the player doesn't, you mill 3. Then it's going to deal damage to that player equal to the total mana value of those cards. With a deck like this that, again, is going to be utilizing some very high converted mana cost artifacts, you're going to cheat those out into play thanks to that unearth. Yeah, opponents might be pretty wary of, not giving you those cards, because if not, they might just get hit for a ton. I mean, sure, if they, risk it and they get hit for a ton, great. If they give you 3 cards, great. That's some fantastic card advantage for just, again, 3 mana for unearthing this. And also, again, of course, a 6/6 with First Strike, a fantastic creature to keep in play if, again, if you've got the Sundial of the Infinite. But of course, outside of Sundial the Infinite, we've got some other ways to take advantage of these artifacts, specifically artifact creatures coming into play. I mean, let's talk about Flame Shadow Conjuring. It says, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay red. If you do, put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. The token gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. So let's just think again about that combustible Gear Hulk, okay? We have it in our graveyard. Again, let's just say we don't have Sundial the Infinite in play, okay? We have the combustible Gear Hulk in our graveyard. We unearth it for 3 mana. Cool. We pay an extra red when it comes into play. We get an extra copy of it. We get that trigger twice. If an opponent's not willing to take the damage, potentially, we're going to be drawing 6 cards, again, for 4 mana, and we've got 2 6/6s with First Strike that can swing right away. So, yeah, that can be a massive play, and of course, even more gross if we've got, again, Sundial, which of course can also keep this creature token for us too, because again, this would exile at the beginning of the next end step, but again, when that's on the stack, we're like, the turn's over, let's just clear the stack, and we're good to go. So, yeah, again, these cards can be incredible, especially in combination with the way that this deck wants to be built, and especially in combination with Sundial the Infinite. Speaking of that, Mirror March, yeah, this can be even more impactful. It is a bit of a risk because, well, there's some coin flipping involved. Whenever a non-token creature in the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip, you create token that's copy that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So again, in a somewhat similar way to Flame Shadow Conjuring, we can get extra token copies of whatever creature coming into play. Again, Mere Battlesphere, Combustible Gear Hulk, any other kind of massive ETBs we can really take advantage of, or just some really heavy hitters we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, we can just keep those around again if we've got Sundial too. Speaking of that, there's Mirrorworks, which can really work with any of our artifacts and work very well. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do create a token, that's a copy of that artifact. So we simply, again, pay 3 mana to unearth whatever artifact we want in our graveyard. Then we just pay 2 extra mana when it's coming into play, and now we get an actual copy of that is going to stick around. So even if we don't have Sundial, yeah, we lose the original. It's going to be exiled at the end of the turn, but we get to keep that copy permanently. And again, of course, this can work incredibly well with ETBs, etc., etc., etc. Speaking of ETBs, I mean, we can also take advantage of our creatures coming into play with Warstorm Surge. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fantastic card that you can really use and abuse. Again, those high mana value, high power creatures that we can just get out for 3 mana, essentially. When a creature enters the battlefield under control, deals damage equal to its power to any target. Just picture that with Combustible Gear Hulk. Now picture that with Combustible Gear Hulk and Mirror March with a couple of, coins that you flip correctly. And then picture that with also Sundial, you get to keep those creatures around. Have fun! And speaking of ETBs, yeah, if you are going to work to use and abuse ETBs with this deck, I mean, Panharmonicon can be a fantastic artifact that you can utilize. Yeah, if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a trigger, the ability of a permanent you control trigger, the ability triggers this whole time. Basically, hey, double up your ETBs, have fun with that. And next up, let's just bring up an enchantment aura really quick that can help you out in a somewhat sneaky way, especially with ETBs too. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control with Kai's Ghost form. When an enchant creature dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Again, it's got that clause with exile, so yeah, I mean, if we unearth something, and again, say we don't have that Sundial the Infinite, we can actually just get that creature right back because it's exiled, and Kai's Ghost form's like, well, you're coming back now. And of course, that's just a great way to kind of, again, get around actually losing that, and then also, again, obviously use and abuse ETBs, which of course, we obviously have plenty of ways to do that. Or, I mean, yeah, again, with Sundial the Infinite, you can just sneak out some massive artifacts, for very cheap. Again, I mean, let's just talk about, Darksteel Forge, Platinum Empyrean, Possessed Portal. They all have incredibly high converted mana costs, and you're getting a massive discount by unearthing them and then just, keeping them in play with Sundial. Darksteel Forge says, artifacts you control have indestructible. Yeah, that's pretty good for an artifact-centric deck, making all of your things incredibly hard to deal with. Again, your opponents already have a, tough time dealing with your stuff because your permanents have ward, sacrifice a permanent. And now you're going to make it even tougher for them because, hey, not only you're going to have to, try to, if you try to take something out, you have to sacrifice something, but also now only specific, removal spells are going to work on my things because they're indestructible. Good luck. Or how about the Massive Platinum Empyrean? Again, this is an 8 mana card, so you're saving, 5 mana just for unearthing it out? I mean, okay, technically, 4 mana if you're also Sundialing, but still. An 8/8 Golem, your life total can't change. So this, again, is something your opponents literally have to deal with if they want to be able to deal with you because, well, your life total is not going to be going anywhere. So, yeah, have fun with that. And speaking of fun, well, okay, yeah, not really all that fun for you, and not for certain playgroups, so make sure you're going to ask your playgroup if they're okay with, stacks type of effects, if they're okay with Possess Portal, because my goodness, this can be incredibly obnoxious and, yeah, just gross. Possess Portal, if a player would draw a card, that player skips that draw instead. Okay, so no more drawing cards. At the end of each turn, each player sacrifices a permanent unless they discard a card from their hand. So, with Sundial, you have a massive advantage over your opponents. Again, you cheat this out for, 3 mana. It's an 8 mana card, you save 5. Again, you Sundial it, whatever. So, you save 4 overall. Cool, you have it in play. Now, everyone can no longer draw cards, and at the end of each turn, they have to sacrifice something. Except I probably should have read, the Oracle text on this, because it does say at the beginning of each end step, each player sacrifices a permanent unless they discard a card. So, you're just going to say, okay, that's on the stack with Sundial. Yep, it's gone now. I no longer have to do that, so I just get around the downside, the main downside, the giant downside of this card, and your opponents aren't that lucky. So they are going to have to sacrifice things. They can't draw any more cards. You're just going to attrition them out. I mean, even if you were to have to sacrifice something, you just get it back with Unearth anyways, right? And you even might want to do that in certain circumstances. Again, if you want to, use and abuse an ETB of an artifact, cool, get it back in your graveyard, unearth it back again next turn. Have fun. And speaking of fun, yeah, I mean, Sculpting Steel. Okay, you're using all these artifacts, you're using all these fantastic artifacts, you either have ETBs or just are massive effects. Why not just get an extra copy of one? Again, whether you actually cast this or unearth it, it's basically the exact same amount of mana. I mean, okay, unless you want to Sundial the Infinite. You know what I mean? But yeah, when it enters the battlefield, you can enter the copy of any artifact on the battlefield. So have fun, again, with your second copy of, Possess Portal. Gross. Or, Combustible Gearhulk. Less gross, but still very good. So yeah, make sure you're considering cards like this one as well. But yeah, there's a lot of gross things you can do with this commander. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Mishra, Tamer of Mak Fawa. And again, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name. Anyways, yeah, I mean, this commander can do some incredibly gross things. Sundial the Infinite is, a card that really works incredibly well with this commander. Again, I don't like to, hand out golden pigs before actually, building a deck around the commander, but it's going to be hard to argue against that unless there's another, similar type of card that comes out in this set that's just somehow better. But yeah, I mean, just being able to keep your artifacts in play, just being able to, cheat them out for, 3 mana, potentially even less if you've got another one of those effects that can reduce that cost, and just be able to keep them out permanently, use and abuse their ETBs, again, maybe get extra copies of those creatures. There are some incredible things that you can do with this commander, and there are some gross things you can do with it, and again, if you're going to play Possess Portal, ask your playgroup first, because, that's kind of a no-no. But yeah, if you are interested in building around this commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, make sure you stay tuned to this channel for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So make sure you comment below and let me know what your thoughts on this episode are. And as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.